Okay, so hopefully this is going to be the last one because obviously it's going to get a bit boring just doing the same thing over and over again. I just wanted to obviously show a few more traps that have been laid that he's jumped into. So here we go, and the really obvious ones. But if you don't catch it, I will break it down for you.
You cannot pass on a virus, and I'm no doctor, but I've done a hell of a lot of research. What this corrupt government has done, it's turned free thinkers like myself into backyard barristers and lounge room lawyers, okay, because we've had to go and research and we've had to learn, we've had to teach.
So right there, right? See, the society we live in does not value you educating yourself. That doesn't exist in their consciousness, right? They believe there's someone who knows better and that it's going to come from some educational institution. So that's what you're trying to convince in the moment. So when you say that I'm no doctor, right, you already discredited yourself. And then when you say you're a backyard, right, whatever follows that, it's going to be someone who's like hatching something, like hatcheting something, butchering something, like a backyard abortion clinic, right? That's what it's going to conjured up in people's minds. This is what we need to understand, when people think that they're actually going to educate the public, you're coming up against their biases and prejudices, right? And if you speak like this, you are just going to be confirming it. So they're really good at spotting when you're confirming or what they believe you're doing, confirming your biases, but they can't do it for themselves, right? This is the dense consciousness you're working with. They don't launch that level of investigation about how they come to believe what they believe. And that's who you're trying to convince, right? So then he's just handed them a gimme, right? And let's see what they do with it.
Teach ourselves what these people are doing to us.
So you just said it yourself, though, that you say that people have become backyard barristers. You've had to do your research, yourself. So you're educating yourself. Where would you get the education from? Because I know, for example, if I would like to justify drinking red wine, so I Google, is it good for you on the internet? And of course it comes up with it is. You can find anything, I guess, on the internet to confirm your beliefs, whether it's true or not.
So his response is, right? So he walked into the trap, they set him up beautifully, and he jumped in with both feet again. This is just a repeating pattern, right? As you can hear it, when you dissect it piece by piece, he keeps walking into the traps, right? And we're not realizing that they're setting him up to do that, right? Because he didn't ask her, well, how is it any different to how you get your information? What source do you have that actually checks off what you receive, and how you can verify what you receive is actually valid and can be verified? How do you do that? Why don't you walk us through your process, and we'll see if there's some overlap there, because we might actually find out that we're using the same process. So then really, I'm just doing what you do. So, it's coming from the same place. Let's look at it that way. Like, he doesn't do that, right? This is us and them. The whole thing is about us and them. Who's better, who's smarter, who's more superior, who's dumb. That's what all is getting pushed here, right? And if you're going to go on mainstream media, that's what they're going to do to you, right? And if you don't understand that principle of how they work, you're going to fall for the trap every time. And unfortunately, this was a beautifully laid trap, and he kept falling into it.
Now, I think we should sack the whole government. We the people are the government, should be the government. We've been railroaded. We've had this whole thing taken off us. So I would like people to start at a Facebook page, and I do a live on there every night. I'm quite explainable in what we do. We don't go anywhere crazy. All we do is...
Unfortunately, by now, he'd be sounding pretty crazy to the listener who's not involved in looking into things for themselves. So he's using the language, he's putting ideas into people's heads, by saying the very thing he's not. That's what they're hearing. This is how it works, right? If you don't want people to attach to any sort of negative labels, stop using them. Don't use them at all. You're always using positive action language, but he's not. He's using what he's not, right? And all they're hearing is the words they recognize. They're not hearing the not. And that's what you're imprinting in people's minds, right? But he starts going that the government's corrupt. We've got to get rid of them, we've got to sack the lot. If you're an everyday normie, right, when you hear that, you're going to think this is some kind of revolution, right? That's the problem, you see. We've got to think, who's the audience, right? So he keeps doing this over and over again and just building more and more. And even though they've edited it, what they've done is they've put in the best bits of how they can nail him to the wall, right? That's what they've really done. They've edited it in a sequence where he's going to sound progressively crazier and crazier to his audience, because these guys who are working for these mainstream stations, they understand who their audience is. If they didn't, they wouldn't have a job. They understand how they think. They understand how to manipulate them, right? So this is just another day on the job for them. This is nothing special for them. It's just a standard thing that they do. And if you don't understand these principles, right, you're just going to walk in there like a lamb to the slaughter. And this is just one massive slaughter. And it's a bit embarrassing, I'm afraid. So I just want to pause it, and I want to go to it because I'll be here for too long. I want to go to the one where he really slams him, in the face, and he just solidifies just how crazy he sounds. All right, this is where he starts escalating it.
A lot of people won't know about because all they do is sit and watch the mainstream media. I can tell you, anything you see on the mainstream media, you need to turn, and I'm not having a go at you guys and talking about the MSN news.
So now he's trying to make a distinction between this radio station, which is a commercial broadcaster, and the MSN News. Like, how are they separate? They run off the same structure. There's nothing different there, right? But what is he doing? He's telling the audience, right, who already believe he's a nutter, what they should be doing. So now they're being told, they're being dictated to what the right thing to do is. So he's using the same tactics that have been used on anyone who doesn't believe the narrative and turning it back on them. How is that actually going to a higher place of consciousness when you do that? Use the same tactics. That's not how things get changed, right? All that does is us and them. It just solidifies that, what's it called, trench warfare. That's all you're really doing. Because the listener's not going to hear, oh, yeah, well, now you told me I should do it, I'll just go do it, shall I? That's not what they're going to hear. They're going to hear, this guy's a freak. That's what they're going to hear, right? And that's why they're setting this up and playing the best bits that actually make it look like he's now going to a dictator that knows what's best and right for you, right? That's all done very deliberately, guys. What the parts they put in is not by accident.
You need to turn it upside down and inside out, and you may then get what they're talking about.
Well, speaking of that, because they're the ones that sort of have been reporting about these sovereign citizens and the movement, and the thing that they would say about you, Guru, is that you don't pay taxes, you don't contribute back to the community, but then, and you pulled yourself out of the community, but then you would still probably collect the dole, Medicare, all that sort of stuff.
No, that's a fair point. I'd like to answer that.
Yeah.
I'm totally self-sufficient, mate.
So now what has he done? He's left that one open, right, and said, well, I'm self-sufficient, so I'm not like everyone else. But that's not how the listener's going to hear it. They're going to go, oh, you're representative of every other one. They're going to go, well, yeah, maybe you don't, but what about all the others, right? He had a perfect opportunity to actually answer that one about tax, right? Because we all pay tax through GST, so you can't get out of it. You know what I mean? He could have really slapped that one down real quick, right, and said, well, what premise are you running from? Because do you not understand, do you not have a comprehension of what GST is? And how many items we purchase where we're constantly paying tax. So, where's this coming from? Like, you can challenge him on the ludicrousy of what they say really quickly, but he's not doing that. And this is the problem, right? We're not seeing the gifts that are being presented for us if we're going to go into this realm, right? We need to, if we, by you, are going to do that, you really start looking and dissecting how they go about doing what they're doing. So he's more, this is the bigger whole, they're only going to leave in things that are going to make sure that he sounds crazy and crazier. And if there's anything of value, right, because it's all collective, come as part of one collective, the people aren't going to hear, they're not going to listen to it and scrutinize the things that may have some value. And this is how he just sinks his self deeper into the hole.
Here is a hell of a lot of rumours about me. Of course I pay tax at this present time. If the rest of the country and the people decide that we don't need to pay tax because Australia One has a 2% expenditure tax that we'd like to bring in, and we could run the whole country on just 2% expenditure tax.
But who runs it though, Dave? Tax. If you get rid of all the government, out pops another leader, which then informs is a different government.
No, what we've got to do is we've got to take this government down. It has to be removed. It is corrupt. It does nothing for the people. The good Lord gave us dominion. In Genesis 1:26, I give you dominion over the earth. That's all I need. Okay.
So now he's saying what they're hearing is that we don't need government, right? We just need to have belief in the good Lord, and that's it. That's how this is going to get portrayed. That's the simple. They've just let him speak in this regard and just let him, just hatchet himself to death on this one. This is how they do it. They let you actually, hang yourself. And unfortunately, he's done that. Anyone who starts speaking about religion, right, you're setting yourself up. It's just not the thing you need to do if you want to start getting credibility. It's the last thing you're going to want to do, because the way it's going to be used is going to make it look like you actually are nutty. Remember, they're only going to leave things in that are going to keep building and building to, build that profile that you are totally off your rocker, right? And then, and then he's saying we've got to get rid of the government. We've got to get rid of the things that people, their religion is that government is important, right? And you want to get rid of that. You start speaking like that, they straight away it just got you pinned against the wall. that you're a raving lunatic, right? It's just that simple. And if we don't understand it, like I said over and over again, more holes to, digging for ourselves. So I want to see if I can find something else. I'll be right back. Now he's going to walk into one he creates for himself when he says the item about seatbelts.
Yes, and you have to do that. So you have to wear a seatbelt. It's 1968.
Yeah.
We changed the rules. Now we find that the outside environment is you can't do anything. They've taken everything off us.
I mean, I can understand why people are getting fed up and upset with governments because they've made lots of bad decisions over time, gotten us very far into debt. Taxes are very high around the world. People are suffering. It's not a great time in the world. So I can understand if, let's just say, you call yourself a free thinker. If people were able to think freely, right? And for instance, you didn't have to wear a seatbelt. Emergency services turn up to a car crash. You decided as a free thinker not to wear your seatbelt. You go through the windscreen. Emergency services go, oh, well, they made their decision. We'll just leave them be, let them die.
Okay. Good try with the example, but that was just an example that I threw out.
No. And okay, so put that aside. But I'm saying, but with anything, if you go, you made the decision to not do that.
So now he's got to walk back from that, right? So now they're in this tug of war. He's setting up this dynamic where he's looking more and more foolish, right? So this is the thing that keeps happening when people don't come in there understanding the principle of what they need to deal with. They're on the fly trying to work it out in the moment, and they're just being sucked in without even knowing it's happening. And so this is a tragic part, right? But at the end, what you're going to hear is what he does symbolically, and I realize that they cut it, right? And they've edited it and they put the best part to last. They did that on purpose. But what he actually does, because he actually says the words, and that's all that the listener needs to hear, is that it's coming out of their mouth, that he actually symbolically kicks you in the back of the knees so you drop to the ground. Then he reaches and grabs your top jaw and your lower jaw, opens it up, right? And just fists down like a battering ram a bunch of truth pills, right? That no one who's listening to this is going to have the capacity to accept. That's what he does. So we're going to go forward to that bit, right? Because it's quite, it's quite intense. And the listener's just going to go, right, this guy's just off his rocker. This is the really tragic bit.
5 or 70% tax. Why are we paying 35% tax, then 48%? I said, you are going to be living in 15-minute cities before you know it. You will not be travelling around. This government, look at the laws this government is passing. If you think your government has got your best interest at heart, you need to think again, people.
Why do you think that the government is so against us then?
Because the government is not run by the people. The government is run by, I'm going to say it again, a Luciferian, satanic cabal.
It's a pretty big point.
Okay, and they do run the world. I don't care what you say to me. I can show you the proof. They run the world.
Where are you getting all that proof from, Dave? Like, I know you do your Facebook page. I know, but if you're encouraging people to be a free thinker, you're still getting that information from somewhere.
Of course I am.
So where are you
getting it off the net?
What did you used to do before the 12?
So there you go, right? They set him up beautifully, and he gave them what they were looking for, off the net. What do people say about the internet? You can't believe everything you see on it, right? While they themselves selectively choose what they're going to say is a truth, right? So they just set that up beautifully. He never asked them, well, what about you? Where do you get yours from? Let's see if it's the same place. So how do you discern the difference between, the information I'm getting from the same source you're getting yours from? What makes you the arbiter, right? It doesn't set that up. So guys, again, be really, really mindful about cheering these people on. Are they really doing, the freedom movement a service, or they're doing a disservice? That's what's really at stake here. We really need to start understanding who's acting in our best interest, and how is it being perceived by the people that we need to actually wake up? How is that going to be taken? Is that really waking them up, or is it solidifying and fortifying their already calcified position? That's the true question that needs to be answered here, right? And what are the strategies that are going to be required to crack open that calcification? Is this the strategy?